I'm sure that wasn't part of what he was thinking of when he designed it. That's how it turns out.
Aesthetics goes into.
Did you get to go upstairs as well and have a look?
No, we didn't go up.
I should have had a sneaky look.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It must be one of the most visited houses around, actually. You know,
Right.
everyone who comes here has the grand tour.
Yeah.
But there's a story behind everything, isn't it? It's lovely.
Yeah. Have you been down to Lammas in West Wales, where they've got planning permission to build? There's like 10 families, each with 3 acres.
Is that the place that Stuart is working?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I've been down there a few times, and they're building round houses. Well, no, some of them are building them like this actually. Huh. The ones that have gone up already are all round, I think, like a bit like the barn, the sort of shed there.
Kind of earth house things.
Well, they're doing straw bales, and
wow.
Cute little hobbit houses.
So what was Stuart was starting to explain that to me yesterday. What's the deal? The Welsh Assembly has given there's some kind of 5-year deadline for what?
They're meant to make their living 75% off the land is the condition of the planning permission.
What does that mean though?
Exactly. It's a bit vague and it's a bit harsh actually. What does it mean? So if someone makes jam with their blueberries, but the sugar's from bloody, across the world, and the jars aren't made on site, so it's really just like, it's really hard to quantify, or their clothes, or what does needs mean. So but I think it was sort of made in a hurry to get,
sounds like it doesn't sound like
and it's actually, it feels too harsh, because I don't know how you'd achieve that in 5 years at the same time as building a house, and most of them have got little kids, and but I think it's because there's old laws around in the same way as Ben got permission for this place because of old
common or been to the same
places. It's a surprisingly small world. Yeah, it is. Well, I guess there's a few different worlds. There's the sort of permaculture world, and then there's the green building world, and then there's a sort of environmental activist world, and they sort of sometimes cross shoulders, or people interested in communal living or whatever, and they're slightly different scenes or whatever, but there's often a lot of crossover really.
So, and which kind of world do you come from?
Or
which worlds, I should say, because there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah. I guess I started off coming from the perspective of an environmentalist, and that sort of direct action environmentalist, let's do something about this sort of thing. And then as I've got older, getting more involved in the kind of positive, like the permaculture, growing, that sort of world, more than sort of reactionary campaigning against Shell or whoever it might be. But then also my working life, I worked as a play worker, working with kids. So, and my last sort of proper job, I was an outdoor play ranger. You can call that a proper job. So I was working in a country park, putting on activities for kids, and then I did the forest schools. Sort of merging. I'm quite interested in environmental education, I suppose, but coming from a feeling that, like, I don't know, I feel like the more you learn about ecology, the more drastic, immediate action needs to be. You realise it's this web, and it's a fragile web, and so it's hard to separate all the strands of, politics and environmentalism and growing your own veg. They're all connected. You can't tease the issues out anymore. So
do you have? One of the things Ben says about this is that people come to it from lots of different angles with different interests and backgrounds. And what are you hoping to? If you're successful, what are you hoping to get out of this? Where would you imagine you'd be at the end of the year? What would it enable you to do that you wouldn't be able to do now?
Well, I was just saying to Ben, it'd be amazing to have that sort of training. Like, I've asked my friends up in West Yorkshire if I could work for them. They've just set up a Woodland management workers co-op But I feel like I don't have anything to offer them really. I'm just I can't offer them any more than a volunteer can offer them. I'd just be taking up space in their vehicle. But a season with Ben would get me chainsaw tickets, and not just the tickets, but the daily practice of using it, and the sort of intense work of learning to read trees, learning to do things that you can't really learn on your own, and just or you can't really learn without practicing daily. And so I think that would be a really good training. And I'd like to get children working the woodlands, making stuff and selling what they make, and then that going back into a project. So because doing the forest schools is brilliant. I really like forest schools, and it gets quite young children using axes and bill hooks and saws and things, but it doesn't really get them. It doesn't often go as far as actually managing a woodland and creating produce. And I think I'd like to make children work. I'm a play worker, I believe. And I feel like if I'm going to be an educator, I want to know my stuff. I don't want to be, I want to feel like I really know what I'm talking about before I go and try and teach someone else.
So just go back a bit and tell it. Well, maybe first of all, I haven't asked you yet. What's your name? Just introduce yourself and tell us how you ended up here. I mean, how did you?
Okay.
Who are you?
Okay.
How do you end up here? Yeah.
My name's Claire, and how did I end up here? It's a good question, actually. I remember seeing the book, The Woodland Way, about 10 years ago, and someone say, "You've got to read this," and sort of flicking through it and not really understanding a word it said, and just sort of, okay. And then rereading it a year ago and being like, I wish I'd read this 10 years ago. The amount of knowledge that's in there. So I was studying for my forest schools qualifications. I was having to write essays on coppicing and woodland management, sustainable use of woodlands. So that that got me reading the book. And I've been on a journey of volunteering through the WWOOFing, the worldwide workers on organic farms, and there's over 1,000 places in the UK, and you can search by a keyword. So I started off sort of woofing anywhere, vegetable gardens or somewhere pretty, and slowly, as I've been doing it for 18 months now, and as time's gone on, you can search by the keyword for woodland or coppicing or greenwood work and forest schools. And so I've been going to places that do that, and and just so I ended up about a year ago. I decided, right, woodlands are for me, and so I've applied to all the coppicing apprenticeships I could find. I think there's 3 in the country that are funded. There's others that you can pay for. There's BHMAT, the Bill Hogarth Memorial Apprenticeship Trust. They do some apprenticeships. So I've decided that I needed skilling up, and I did my first chainsaw ticket when I got made redundant. I could choose a course, and from a job in the country park in Blackburn, and I chose that course, and so all sorts of lots of things coming together. Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of how you heard about Ben specifically, you read this book you glanced at the book 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You read it a year ago, and then how much did you know about Ben and what he did before you showed up here?
I've never actually seen his TV programme, although I owe him one because my mum's been wondering what I'm doing with my life. I'm 30 now, I don't have traditional employment, and traditional is the wrong word. Maybe I do have traditional employment. So I owe him one for that, because since I've been like, look, Mum, that guy off the telly, and she quite fancies Kevin MacLeod. So that Ben Law guy off the telly, well, that's the sort of thing I'm interested in, and that's given her a handle on understanding why I keep hitchhiking around the country off to obscure woodlands. And
so everyone here has fascinatingly different backgrounds, actually. I mean, did you grow up running around Woodlands or in the cities? Or what
I had both, actually. I lived in Manchester when I was a little kid, and then we moved out to the Staffordshire Moorlands, which are quite a wild, very rural landscape. And I appreciated my sudden freedom that I didn't have in Manchester. We were allowed to go to the park by ourselves, and we had fields and streams. It's not particularly wooded around there, but we did have a few. There was a stream with some trees around. So yeah, I grew up like in a rural place, and fortunately as well, I think other kids maybe took it for granted because that was all they'd ever known. But because I'd lived in the city when I was younger, I could see the benefits of being there. And I think there's something about the physical landscape you grow up in that, like I tried to go back to the city, and I lived in Manchester for 7 years as an adult, and that was enough. I had to find my way out. So I've decided that I'm determined to find some way of having employment outside, working outside.
Well, you come to the right place.
By hook or by crook, I'll find a way. So I just wrote Ben a letter. I'd seen his website that he took a apprentice and to write to him by the 1st of July. So on the 29th of June, I hand scrawled a letter. I didn't draft it or anything, and I didn't really think I was in with a chance because I know that a lot of people pay to come on tours and courses, and I sort of thought, well, he's going to go for people he's met, but it's only an hour of my time. So yeah, just posted a letter off and got an email back, and yeah.
And here you had 3 days of it now. How's it been?
Yeah. Oh, it's been lovely, really nice. Yeah, a nice bunch of people. It's always nice to just, regardless of whether I get on the apprenticeship or not. I'm in some ways I'm not too fussed because I've applied to 2 others as well, and my mates might take me on, even though I don't feel like I'm skilled enough for them. So I'm not too sort of, sometimes you really want something, don't you? And so it's. Ben was saying he used to just interview people for half an hour or whatever, but he said he wants to be able to make it worth our while, and so yeah, it's been good. He's obviously someone who's very generous with his knowledge and time, and wants to share his enthusiasm for this world because he believes it's important. And so yeah, it's nice to hang out with him and other people who are attracted to the same sort of thing, swapping contact details and swapping places, tips of where to go and how to get experience, and other people to meet, and so yeah, it's been really good.
Like, when Matt left early yesterday, and everyone, it was like you've been together on a ship for 2 months or something.
Yeah, and I think working together is a really good way to get to know people quickly. It's when we like with the trying to work out how to take that deer fencing down, you're sort of crawling through hedges, and none of us had done it before, and you're working out how to do it, and you're cooperating with people, and you still really, it's a nice way to share a week. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And all the best.
Yeah.
However it works out, it's going to be really, really interesting. But it sounds like you kind of know what you want to do. You sort of.
Yeah, I feel like that. Yeah, sort of. Yeah. So I'm running with it.
We talked to Mikey about that. He's 25, but he definitely feels he's sort of at a crossroads in his life, and he's sort of been fiddling about doing interesting things, but he's got to a point where he wants to take a bit more control or direct things.
So I think sometimes you get a sense of agency, like your own agency, that I think I didn't have in the past. I felt like life was happening to me, and you sort of see what happens, and I've always had very strong beliefs about the environment and the need to throw your energy at doing something worthwhile and important, and needs to happen now, really. Like where I'm staying up in Hebden, where I was living, the peat bogs up there are getting degraded really fast, and that's causing flooding, and we can't wait 10 years to talk about what happens to the peat bog, so we need to sort it out now, because the peat's dying. It's taken 10,000 years to make, and it's disappearing now, and 10 years, so it's things like that is sort of giving me a sense of urgency. And things happen in your life, don't you? Getting made redundant is probably a really good thing, so maybe turning 30.
It's often a thinly disguised blessing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting the heath.
Yeah, I was made redundant once, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
In reflection, it really was.
Yeah.
It really was. I deserved to be made redundant.
Thank you very much.